The cargo bay of the Ian Grace thrummed with tension. 6 juvenile drakens prowled their reinforced enclosure, each the size of a shuttle and covered in obsidian scales that caught the dim lighting like fractured stars. Their rumbling growls reverberated through the hull. "Sedation protocols are ready, Captain," Security Officer Vesh reported, mandibles clicking nervously. Captain Torren's crystalline eyes remained fixed on the monitors. No, the consortium was explicit. Any neurological interference could compromise the study. We manage them awake or not at all. In the observation room, xenobiologist Raven watched the creature's pace. Drakens were apex predators, territorial and fierce. Intelligence tests suggested cognition rivaling most sapient species, yet they'd never been successfully studied up close. These juveniles represented a decade of negotiation with Drak Terra's isolationist clans. And somewhere 3 decks above, another apex predator slept, one the galaxy feared far more than any Draken. Myra was human, 3 years old, rescued from the Kepler 442 colony collapse. Her species' homeworld was a death world of relentless evolution, and humans bore its mark. Endurance that bordered on supernatural, pattern recognition that seemed like prophecy, and most disturbing of all, an ability to form emotional bonds with virtually anything. It was this last trait that had allowed humanity to spread across old Earth with armies of domesticated wolves, raptors, and beasts that should have devoured them. The galaxy had learned to handle humans carefully, like loading fusion cores. Raven's datapad chimed, child's quarters, motion detected, empty. Her heart seized, Captain. The lights in the cargo bay suddenly flickered. Through the viewport, Raven saw a small figure pressed against the observation window near the Draken enclosure, face illuminated by the bioluminescent emergency strips. Myra. The Drakens had frozen mid-stride, 6 pairs of amber eyes locked on the tiny human, their bodies coiled, muscles tensing. The largest juvenile, nearly 4 meters at the shoulder, approached the transparent barrier with predatory slowness. "Get her out of there," Torren barked. "Now." But as security moved, something happened. Myra began to hum. It wasn't a melody, exactly, more a rhythmic drone that rose and fell like breathing. Her small hand pressed against the barrier, and impossibly, the massive Draken leaned forward until its scaled snout nearly touched her palm through the transparent wall. Its growl softened to a purr. "Hold," Raven whispered, unable to look away. "Just hold." Myra tilted her head, studying the creature. Then she made a sound, a chirping click deep in her throat that shouldn't have been possible for human vocal cords. The Draken's crest flared, and it responded with its own vocalization, harmonizing with her. One by one, the other juveniles approached. They arranged themselves in a semicircle around Myra, bodies relaxed. Their earlier agitation completely vanished. "She's pack bonding," Raven breathed. "Stars above, she's actually doing it." Captain Torren stared at the monitors in disbelief. "That's not possible. They're not canids there." "It doesn't matter what they are." Raven's voice carried the weight of sudden understanding. "Humans don't bond with species. They bond with individuals. Any individual. It's not logic, it's instinct. She sees them as family." For 2 hours, Myra sat with the Drakens. She mimicked their movements, their sounds. They responded with gestures of their own, increasingly gentle. When she yawned, they settled onto their haunches. When she laughed, their crests flushed with color. Finally, Torren made the call. "Open the scent exchange valve, minimal ventilation between sections." "Captain, that's—" "I know what it is, do it." The Draken's behavior shifted immediately as Myra's scent reached them. The largest juvenile released a long, low call, the sound Draken parents made to their young. It was recognition, acceptance. Myra had become pack. For the remaining 3 weeks of the journey, Myra spent every waking hour in the observation deck. The Drakens tracked her movements, rested when she rested, grew alert when she was excited. When crew members approached too quickly, the juveniles would position themselves between her and the perceived threat. But when the Ian Grace finally docked at Arcturus Station, and handlers came to transfer the Drakens to their designated facilities, Myra sobbed. The sound that erupted from the cargo bay made the station's structural beams vibrate. 6 Drakens, crying out in harmony, a haunting, mournful song that would later be confirmed as the Draken distress call for a separated family member. The consortium's emergency session lasted 4 hours. 9 months later, Raven stood at the edge of the Xenozoological Preserve on Refuge 7, watching Myra sprint across purple grass under 3 suns. 6 Drakens thundered behind her, their massive forms impossibly graceful as they matched her pace, calling out in joy. When Myra finally collapsed, laughing and breathless, they surrounded her, a living fortress of scales and protective instinct. The largest juvenile curled around her as she leaned against its flank, and within minutes all 7 were dozing in a pile of contentment. Raven made a note in her log. Humanity's true threat was never its capacity for violence or its tool-using intelligence. It was something the galaxy had never encountered, a species that looked at the universe's most dangerous predators and saw not enemies or resources but friends, family, home. In a cosmos often cold and hostile, humans carried a devastating weapon, the ability to love anything and be loved in return. Perhaps that's why we fear them. Not because they might destroy us, but because they might make us feel. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the preserve, Myra stirred and mumbled something in her sleep. The Drakens shifted, adjusting their protective circle. And in that moment, under alien stars, a human child and 6 apex predators dreamed together as one pack.